from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, what do farmers think should happen with NAFTA? Meanwhile, rumblings are on the rise about the administration walking away. And agribusiness looking ahead at the week and the rest of December.
You need to set targets out there, not just, hey, call me when it gets there, because it's too quick. You need to be aggressive selling this old crop on rounds.
Machinery Pete has pricing trends for used combines, and we say farewell and thank you to a colleague and friend.
Ag Day, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. When it comes to the North American Free Trade Agreement, a new Farm Journal Pulse poll reveals some interesting positions on that trade pact. Farm Journal conducting an unscientific online poll asking if the U.S. should withdraw from NAFTA. Surprisingly, about a third of the farmers surveyed would not be concerned if NAFTA goes away. Breaking it down for you, 7% said the U.S. economy would be better off without the trade deal. 23% said the U.S. can negotiate a better deal one-on-one instead of in that three-way pact. Still a large number, 40%, say NAFTA is crucial to U.S. farmers, and a quarter of the respondents are still unsure about their views on NAFTA. But most farmers we talked to urge the president to keep the 24-year-old trade deal.
If that gets messed up, I mean, we haven't seen anything yet for low prices, I don't think.
I really hope that we continue to stress the importance of free global trade, because as far as corn producers are concerned and soybean producers are concerned, the international markets are very important for us, and I hope to see the free trade agreements that we've got on the books stay on the books, and that we can expand that in the next couple of years here.
Meanwhile, farm groups are using the Twitterverse to communicate with President Trump about the importance of NAFTA. The president, of course, is a big user of Twitter. They hope hashtag Farmers for NAFTA catches his attention. Here are a few of the tweets. David Clevenger is a Texas wheat grower. He urges farmers and ranchers to call the White House and tell the president not only to keep the U.S. in NAFTA, but to look for other trade deals. And the American Soybean Association says soybean exports have increased fourfold under NAFTA. In an interview with Bloomberg News, Canada's ambassador to the U.S. said he thinks a deal can be accomplished, but not before March. However, Ambassador David McNaughton says negotiators must still overcome thorny issues like American demands for tougher auto quotas. Now, last week, Mexico's ambassador to the U.S. said the odds are 50-50 that the NAFTA talks could end with the U.S. walking away from the table. Still, Ambassador Guillermo Gutierrez says he remains, quote, moderately optimistic the three countries can reach an agreement in the next few months. But U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer said following the conclusion of talks that he's concerned about the lack of headway. The talks resume January 23rd. Now, economists at Goldman Sachs are not as optimistic about the future of NAFTA. In a note published last week, the investment banking firm says it expects the Trump administration to announce its intent to withdraw from NAFTA in the coming months. Goldman Sachs economists say the U.S. has made demands on several issues that appear to be non-starters for Canada and Mexico. The investment firm believes the positions will ultimately lead to an impasse, and the U.S. will announce its intention to pull out of the agreement. Last week, the president meeting with Ted Cruz and other critics of the renewable fuel standards. The result, President Trump urging the Republicans to settle their differences and move on. Both EPA Chief Scott Pruitt and Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue were on hand for that meeting. There was also talk of putting a price cap on the Renewable Identification Numbers, or RINs. Now, you may remember Senator Cruz insisting on the gathering before he will stop blocking a vote on the nomination of Iowa's Bill Northey to be an Undersecretary of Agriculture. Also in Washington, House and Senate leaders have appointed negotiators to work out differences between the two bodies' tax bills. Both bills create new but different tax breaks for small businesses that file as individuals, and that includes 94% of farms. Other provisions popular with producers, cash accounting, and faster expensing of land, equipment, and facilities. Now, both bills double the estate tax exemption, while the House version ends the tax by the year 2024. Regardless of what happens in Washington, some farmers are already trying to get ahead of that bill.
My wife and I had made a commitment actually before this passed the House and the Senate to go ahead and do estate planning, and we're trying to minimize the tax burden down the road because the law's a moving target. But it would be helpful to farm families to do away with the estate tax.
Howie says things like capping the amount of property tax you can deduct or capping mortgage interest or farm interest would be detrimental to his operation. Use of antibiotics on farms has dropped for the first time since FDA started keeping records. That was back in 2009. The agency says sales of medically important antimicrobials for livestock and poultry fell by 10% in 2016. The decline happening in the wake of new restrictions on antibiotic use that took effect in January. Farmers now need veterinary oversight to administer those medically important antibiotics, and the drugs can no longer be sold for growth promotion. USDA says almost all of the U.S. cotton crop has been picked. Now, gins are working hard. Hoke Robinson gin, located in Red Springs, North Carolina, just reached its 50,000 bale mark for the season late last week. Workers say they anticipate to gin between 50 and 57,000 bales by the end of this year. Edgar Edens with the company says the cotton is producing one of the best yields he can remember for the area.
And it's been a great harvest season, a great ginning season, and everybody's yields have been spectacular. The quality of the cotton is spectacular, and good cotton gin's good.
72,000 bales is the record for that gin. Now, Eden says a lot of cotton farmers in his area have called it quits due to financial reasons. Some farmers are switching and growing peanuts as well. Drought continues to intensify on the U.S. Drought Monitor. The Southwest, Plains, Lower Midwest, and Southeast seeing the biggest deterioration. The monitor showing October and November were very dry in various regions of the South, experiencing its 11th driest on record. In the Southwest, its 6th driest. Nearly 3/4 of North Carolina is abnormally dry. Mostly 22% of the state is in moderate drought. One producer says the winter wheat needs some moisture there.
But now it's starting to get serious with our winter wheat. We just got a few tenths in the last day, but we really are behind on moisture. Pond levels are really low. Subsoil moisture is non-existent here. It's really going to be critical for us to get rains for this coming year, this spring, or could be in a devastating drought if it continues like this all winter.
Today, all about our future farmers out on the farm. Mike Hoffman has an update in crop comments this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. We'll start off in Warren County, North Carolina. John Skinner sending a picture of his son, Chris, also known as his quality control supervisor, hard at work. John says Chris has a knack for farming and hopes he'll continue to hold that passion. Moving over to Sedalia, Missouri, Brittany Wilbanks sending us a picture of another future farmer. This little one is feeding and weaning calves with a unicorn in tow. And taking a look at the weather map today, yeah, that's cold for the eastern part of the country and warm out west. Now, there are some signs that may give way to a little bit of a change in about 10 days. We'll talk more about that with my forecast and also have your 30-day outlook coming up. First, here are some hometown tips.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
All right, up next, we'll kick off a new week with perspective and expectations for commodity markets in December. And Machinery Pete joins us from the road to talk about used combine prices and trends he's been watching for a decade or more, and bidding farewell to fellow farm broadcaster Mike Adams as he begins a new chapter.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313.
In agribusiness, it was a mixed day for markets to close out the week. Let's get the numbers from the floor to CME in Chicago.
Today, beans were lower. The futures really continued to slip as the technical signals really start to press these markets. Traders are still unwinding that long position that they played that was against the weather in South America, specifically in Argentina. But the weather's improving there, so liquidating some of that position is really starting to send the market a little bit lower. And of course, slipping below $10 is going to be very significant. But there's still more room to fall, so we're still going to be looking forward to the report on Tuesday. Today, cattle was mixed, really traded on both sides of the market today. Futures remain weak, but they're in oversold conditions. It still exists, and so that's giving a little more you know, a little more something to the market, so it's keeping it from kind of like really slipping lower. Short covering from taking some of the profits off the table because the market has really been dropped quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 days. Some of the traders are balancing their positions, and I expect that this is going to be happening for the rest of December. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Dwayne Bussey here at the Agribusiness Desk talking about what's happening in the markets this week. Is there anything that you learned last week that you can take and you know, use in the month ahead, or would we just need to talk football, Viking football, you know, Jacks basketball, anything else that we need to talk?
Well, yeah, we'll be recovering from the Jacks football game I'm going to tomorrow, I'm sure. But
That's right.
anyway, last week what I really learned, and I think I already knew it, but it needed to get drilled in my head again, farmer selling will be very high and aggressive on rallies. We got the 360 March corn, boom, right back down because farmers sold. 10-10 January beans, boom, right back down. So what I started to do is really call clients and tell them, you need to set targets out there, not just, hey, call me when it gets there because it's too quick. You need to be aggressive selling this old crop on rallies.
Yeah, you know, December is kind of an interesting month. It's the end of the year. We've just wrapped up all of this harvest work. Things are getting put away and stored away, plus we're doing taxes and all those other things. What's your take for the rest of this month as we try to wrap up 2017?
I wish I had something fun to say about December trading, but it is a little bit duller. A lot of December to me is liquidation, people squaring up positions. Remember, funds, you know, if they want to show a profit, if they've got a profitable position, they need to get out of that position. Then it makes their books look better. They get their Christmas bonus as well. So they might be exiting things like live cattle, for example, just getting out of positions, taking their profit, no matter what the demand or supply says. So a lot of position squaring, a lot of squirrely trade during the month of December.
Anything you're hanging your hat on for 2018?
For 2018, I guess generally friendly. I just can't be bearish corn at this price. I can't be bearish wheat at this price, which is a doomsday to say, to say, but generally friendly, especially the corn market. I think farmers are going to be more aggressive selling this old crop, much more than last year.
Sure.
And once that happens, you know, a good friend who I just met, Bob Utterback, told me about a year ago, once the farmers sell their crop, then you can have a rally. So it's not going to happen in the first quarter of 18, but you get to about summertime, you could have a nice rally in the corn market.
All right, well, that's something to look forward to.
Something positive, anyway.
Well, Merry Christmas from Dwayne. I appreciate that. We'll be back with more AgDay in just a minute.
For marketing advice, call Bolt Marketing, a futures and options brokerage firm. AgDay, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
Welcome back to AgDay. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman looking at the jet stream here. And Mike, last week, places like Houston, all the way down to the Gulf Coast, getting snow. What about this week?
Yeah, those areas got snow before a good chunk of the Midwest this year. Yeah, well, this week we are looking at the cold continuing at least through most of the week. And this is what we've been talking about for a while, the big trough in the eastern two-thirds of the country, basically east of the Continental Divide. You can see this is a stable weather pattern that typically holds for a while, and that's what it's doing. There's through the middle of the week. We're still seeing the winds coming right off the Arctic Circle and the upper atmosphere right into the Great Lakes. You can see how the trough continues right through the week. Ridge continues out west, which means no storms are coming into the west coast, and you'll continue to see pretty warm weather out there. Now here's where it gets interesting. Our model wasn't showing this before, but all of a sudden it's showing a quick trough coming in out west and a ridge in the east. I think even if this does happen early next week, it'll quickly go back to another trough by later next week. But we'll wait and see on that. This is a change from what the model was showing before. Temperatures this week, we're going below normal basically from the Mississippi Valley eastward to the eastern seaboard. Above normal temperatures for most of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, westward to the west coast, although we'll keep it near normal for western Washington and western Oregon. As far as precipitation this week, we'll only go above normal, and that's barely above normal from northern Minnesota across the central Great Lakes into the eastern Great Lakes. Part of that's because of lake effect snow you'll get a couple of times this week. But most of the lower 48 expected to be below normal, all the way from the mid-Atlantic, the Ohio River Valley, southern Mississippi Valley, and then almost the entire western portions of the country, except for the far northwest. Here's the 30-day outlook for temperatures. I am going below normal, as I do expect that trough to re-dig in for most of the rest of December anyway. You can see below normal pretty much east of the Continental Divide, except for central and south Florida. Above normal for the Four Corner region through California, southern Oregon. Precipitation over the next 30 days from eastern Iowa, northeastern Missouri, all the way into eastern Canada above normal, and also the Pacific Northwest above normal. Southern tier of states look below normal to me over the next 30 days. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. First of all, for Moorcroft, Wyoming, lots of sunshine and chilly, high temperature around 40 degrees. Cairo, Illinois, breezy with a mix of sun and clouds, high of 54. And finally, a little colder, Watertown, New York, cloudy with light snow at times, high of just 24.
Could we see the price of a used combine top $1 million? Machinery Pete tracks the historical price up next, and later we'll say goodbye to a friend and coworker as Mike Adams passes the AgriTalk microphone to a new host.
Unlock the power of ag technology this December in Indianapolis at the first ever Ag Tech Expo. Learn all about it at farmjournalagtech.com.
Machinery Pete is brought to you by John Deere. Where can you find the most comprehensive inventory of John Deere certified pre-owned tractors, combines, and sprayers? Machinefinder.com. Sometimes the best new addition to your fleet isn't new.
Machinery Pete has been tracking used values a long time. Well, today he looks specifically at how much used combine values have risen over the past 2 decades.
All right, folks, today our topic is used combine values. Now, we all know the rising price of new combines, of course, has pulled up on the value of used over the years. Now, on this very topic, I was recently writing a column for Top Producer magazine, and I went into our auction price data, and I went back 17 years, and I pulled out the highest auction price for every calendar year. Now, what would you guess was the highest price paid for a combine in the year 2000? It was actually $121,000, and it was a July 12, 2000 sale in East Central North Dakota, where a 2000 model Case H 2388 went for $121,000. Now, it took 7 years until we crossed the 200,000 mark. That was up in the year 2007. And then it took another 7 years until we hit 2014 and we crossed the $300,000 mark. And there was a sale December 17th, 2014, West Central Ohio, a 2012 John Deere S690 sold for $340,000, still the highest price I've ever seen in the U.S. Now, what's interesting is for 14 years in a row that highest price went up, but the last 3 years it's actually gone down just a little bit. So are we plateauing, or 15 years from now will we almost triple again, up to $1 million for a used combine? Stay tuned.
Thanks, Greg. When we come back, we'll wish a good friend and coworker, Mike Adams, farewell as he starts a new chapter.
In the country, brought to you by Kubota. Check out Kubota's RTV X1140, a rugged utility vehicle with seating for 4. Stop by your local dealer today or visit Kubota.com.
As we close out the show this Monday morning, we want to give a big thank you to Farm Journal colleague and longtime farm broadcaster Mike Adams. Now, Mike stepped out of the radio booth one last time on Friday as host of AgriTalk. AgriTalk is our daily, live, national 1-hour syndicated radio program. It launched in 1994. Mike started hosting the show back in 2001. Well, on Friday, he bid farewell to his faithful listeners.
So now it's time for me to wrap up my last AgriTalk show. And I know I leave the show in good hands. I wish Chip Flory and the Farm Journal team the very best in the future. Thank you all for a great 16 years. I'm going to close the way I close a lot of my speeches when I get a chance to talk with audiences around the country. Just a reminder to all of us, on your worst day, you are never beyond the reach of God's grace. And on your best day, you are never beyond the need of God's grace. So long, everyone. It's been a wonderful 16 years. Merry Christmas. Have a great, wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much.
Starting January 2nd, Chip Flory, whom you may know from the Pro Farmer Crop Tour, Pro Farmer Newsletter, and Market Rally Radio, will take over at AgriTalk. Chip will be only the 3rd host in AgriTalk's long history. Now, Mike Adams is a recipient of the prestigious Farm Broadcaster of the Year award. He also served as president of the National Association of Farm Broadcasting. And of course, we all wish him well. That's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in, spent part of your day with us. I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy-duty pickups.